How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be continuing my Sharks of Summer series. Sharks of Summer is a series I do around here where once a week, at least once a week, during the summer, I take a look at a shark movie. And today we're going to be covering the third and so far final film in the Open Water trilogy. This is Open Water 3. Cage Dive. This is from 2017, and if you guys remember, Open Water 2 was like 2006, so an 11-year break, more or less. Talk about a belated sequel. Strangely enough, though, there was a remake of Open Water 2 Adrift, simply titled Adrift without the Open Water branding, and that came out in 2017 as well, so we got like an 11-year break, and then 2 more movies popped out of nowhere for no reason. Okay, sure, why not? This movie was written and directed by Gerald Rascionato, and stars Joel Hogan, Josh Potthoff, and Peta Hill. And much like Open Water Part 2, this movie did not begin life as an Open Water sequel. It was originally going to be called Into the Deep, and was going to be its own movie, but before it was released, the studio was like, hey, close enough to Open Water, you can be an Open Water movie, we'll make more money with the branding, probably. And it really is strange this time around that this wasn't an Open Water movie, because this movie at times really feels like a remake of Part 1. I mean, it's called Open Water 3 Cage Dive, but the cage dive doesn't last that long, and quite quickly, we're back to shots of people's heads bobbing up and down in the water as the sharks surround them. If this didn't get to be part of the Open Water brand, people would call it a knockoff, so good for them, I guess. A few things, though, before we get in. One, this movie marks the franchise turning 100% into found footage. We did get a found footage opening segment, a prologue for Part 2, but this time around, we're all found footage. And I have to say it works for Open Water. It doesn't always work taking a franchise that wasn't found footage and turning it into found footage, but Open Water, it was going for realism, and it was going for trying to convince you it was a true story. It worked with Open Water. I mean, you look at how the first movie was shot, it really should have been found footage. If that was more popular at the time, they would have shot it that way. So I think this series makes the transition pretty well. Another thing I want to mention is it is Sharks of Summer. Open Water 2 had no sharks in it, but now the sharks are back and they're better than ever. It's still not the sharkiest of shark movies, but it's the sharkiest that the Open Water series has been. They're much more of a presence this time around, and I think with cameras getting better and CGI getting better, and yeah, the sharks just look pretty good in this movie, and you really do get to see them, including some very good shots. Like there's one shot of underwater night vision, the shark floats by. It's pretty cool. All that being said, I think this movie's pretty decent. Now, a lot of the shark movies I cover are like low-budget asylum movies or, micro-budget indie films. So, yeah, not hard to get pretty decent for a shark movie. It does a lot of interesting stuff. There's more character building than the first Open Water, and there's a fair amount of good ideas here. But that being said, I don't want to sing this movie's praises too much, because there are some frustrating moments, and when the movie is overall decent, when you get to a frustrating moment, it sticks out a little bit more, but there's just too many cases of don't do that, or that's not how reality works, that, sadly, it can get a little frustrating. I do want to say, overall, this movie's decent, and when I talk about specifics here in a minute, I am going to have quite a few gripes. Just bear in mind I said it was decent, okay? Because, yeah, let's go ahead and dive into the plot, and we'll see some of these gripes. Anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about the movie. No major spoilers. I'll be avoiding the end, but I do want to analyze it, dig up some complaints, and talk about the story. Anyway, we open up with a diver finding a camera that's clearly been bitten by a shark underwater. That's a cool idea. The genre's called found footage. Show the footage being found. That's cool. We then make one of our many missteps. We start playing some news footage, which I feel kind of spoils some of the coming parts of the story. I get what they were going for. They were trying to make it more real. Be vaguer about it. But anyway, after the news footage, we then cut to the diver finding the camera underwater. And no, I didn't mistakenly repeat myself. The movie did. Diver finds camera, news footage. Again, the diver finds the camera. Why did we show that twice? Anyway, the diver talks about how he found the camera, he wanted to get it back to the owners, the memory card was luckily still okay. And I guess you mean get the footage back to the owners, because that camera is toast. But anyway, he talks about how he started posting the footage on the internet to try to make it this viral thing of, hey, let's find who owned this footage, right? And they talk about how the cousin of the main characters saw it and how he hoped, oh man, maybe my cousins are okay because some guys found their camera. I get wanting to have the tension and stuff, but just go to the last file on the camera. I can honestly not believe that this guy tried to turn it into a viral sensation, but didn't watch all the footage himself. Because if you want to know what happens to the people, skip to the end. I mean, it's apparently been several days where the cousin heard about it, and this guy has still not gotten to the end of this video footage where you can tell what happened to them by watching the end of the movie. I get what they were going for, the idea that it would be this viral mystery, but if it makes no sense, it simply makes no sense. Whatever. We get a sort of documentary framing with both the camera finder and the cousin, so that's kind of decent and breaks up the pace a little bit. But after that, the stars of this movie. We get two half-brothers. I guess they say half-brothers so the actors can look a little more different. And I do like they give one of them long hair and one of them short hair. Visual distinctions, thank you. And then we get one of the brothers has a girlfriend, and that'll be their three-person crew. You see, they found this website that, to be honest, looks like it's from 2007, but they found this website and they're like, hey, do you want to be on TV? Send us an audition tape and show us that you're rad adventurer dudes, right? And that's what they're going to try to do. They film a little introduction, and to be honest, when they started flying to Australia, I thought they had gotten on the show. But no, they're still filming their audition tape. How much money do you guys have that for an audition tape that's probably not going to get picked up, you're flying all the way to Australia? Do you know how much a plane ticket cost? Okay, granted, they do have family there. You know, like I said earlier, you see their cousin. So you could kind of say that maybe this was a road trip, right? Not road trip, a trip. You know, that would justify it. It's like, hey, we're not just there for the audition. We're there to see the cousin. I guess. But it kind of seems odd that this whole thing's just for like one little audition. But anyway, they're there. They're partying with the cousin. And we get a little bit of drama where it turns out the girl is cheating on the brother with the other brother. Drama. Okay, whatever. We also get this other scene that I don't really like, where the brother tries to film his girlfriend in the shower, and of course the camera battery conveniently cuts off right before she takes everything off, and it really felt just super dumb. I mean, A, it felt like a knockoff of the VHS series. But B, battery life is not embedded in the video file. Hollywood, you do stuff with cameras, you should know this. Whatever, it felt like a movie that wasn't really dirty, trying to pretend it was dirty for no reason for just a second. It makes you like the characters less, so I don't know what that was about. But eventually, after they hang out, they go on to their little shark dive tour. And the guy doing the safety on the boat really did feel like part one. That being said, not meant to be a sequel, so it must be coincidence. They go in the cage, they see the sharks, a really good sequence, lots of good views of the shark, and I'm like, wow, this movie's panning out great. And then they go up for no reason. Now the cage dive is over. Open water 3, cage dive, the cave dive sequence is done. No more cage dive. Okay, probably shouldn't have called the movie Cage Dive if we're all done with this. But then the setup happens. And you know how I said this movie has moments of reality doesn't work like that? The whole setup is one of those things. They get up out of the cage, and a giant wave comes out of nowhere and knocks over the boat. If only the boat people had planned for waves. Who would have thought you would see a wave in the ocean? Also, one isolated wave. Only one wave? You know, waves are a pattern, right? And there was no bad weather even. It was a nice sunny day. It wasn't like it was a storm. It was just one wave, or rather the riders, the ex machina, knock the boat over for no reason. This shouldn't have happened, but we needed the plot to start going. So now they're in the water. There are other people from the boat, but sharks show up, and the sharks are nice enough to eat all the red shirts. I don't know how these sharks knew who the main characters were and decided to not touch them, but they knew. And now it's the three of them floating in the water alone, and like I said, very much open water. Now, they talk more and you have more of a sense of their characters, and I do like that better. Again, one of the key flaws with Open Water 1 is I didn't really know any of these people. Having 3 characters instead of 2 is more to talk about, more to bounce things off. And I also think it got started later and the movie's not particularly long. It's like 80 or so minutes and has super long credits. So the heads in the water scene doesn't last as long as the first. There's more to talk about with more people to talk about it. And the found footage does keep you in there, keep you in the moment, and gives you better angles. Even though this section is very much like the first, I think it is better here, and more stuff does happen to shake things up. Maybe they'll find something floating in the water. That being said, a few more gripes. One, they show, and they didn't need this scene, but they show a helicopter finding and saving some survivors. How far did our main characters go from the helicopter that it didn't see them and that future rescue attempts didn't find them? Seriously, showing some people get saved, just ask the questions, how did they miss the main characters even more? Second, without spoiling what it is, they find something super helpful in this movie, but of course this is a horror movie, we gotta get rid of the helpful thing, and it is one of the most, oh my gosh, are you kidding me moments, how they get rid of this helpful thing, and it was just, And I do also want to point out, there is one scene at the end where they totally knock off the Blair Witch Project, a famous shot from that. Couldn't help but notice that. But anyway, as I said, I did do a fair bit of griping, And it's one of those movies that I recognize, like, it's good. It has lots of moments that I like. I think it's probably better than Part 1. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Part 1, and I think it did a lot really well. It's just the things in here that bugged me so much, it kept me from enjoying the rest of the movie. One random wave knocks them into the ocean. It's called Cage Dive, but they're barely in the cage. It's a decent movie that some things just really struck me the wrong way. But overall, it's a found footage shark movie. Those are kind of rare, and this is pretty fun. Other than the parts where it wasn't. So overall, decent. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist in the bottom. How about my open water playlist where you can see my reviews of the first 2 movies? Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Open water playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.